Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours with 10% off using code FD10. Bidding Classics, the online classic car marketplace with more cars added every week. And Lancaster Insurance cover the Furious fleet. They are one of the biggest specialist insurers in the UK, covering all areas of vintage to modern classic cars and motorbikes. Follow the links in the description below. Welcome to Furious Driving, and today I'm down at CCK Historic, down just south of Crowborough, to go and see a friend of ours we've not seen in a long time. The Rover V8, the 1973 P6 3500, which has now got the Range Rover 4.6 in it, which I've still never seen run. Now, this has been a problem for a long time. I could not make this thing start at home, so I had it shipped over here to CCK, where it became their problem, and it's been sat here for a long time now. The reason being, they initially got it and they fairly quickly resolved or solved the problem of why it wasn't starting. And my fault, rookie error for an engine builder. The camshaft in there, I put it a couple of degrees out so the cams were opening and closing and it all looked correct, nothing was meshing and hitting, no interference, but it wasn't actually closing at the right times in order to get compression. So there's no compression, no start, no running. However, we've now got a new problem with the car, which we're going to look at today. Oh, one more thing while I look inside this car. At least 60% of the people watching this video are not subscribers. If you're not a subscriber, then do please hit that button, because it makes such a massive difference to what we can do on the channel, because more subscribers means this video gets shown to more people. We get to share the Furious Driving joy. That's what the smell inside this car is absolutely lovely. It's unique. It's like, oh, 1970s fabric smell. I love it. So this is my 1973 Rover P6 V8, which originally came with a 3.5 litre in it. Now I have had this car for the best part of 20 years now, I think it must be, maybe 15 or so. It's a long time anyhow. I actually got it for free, believe it or not, through the Owners Club, back when these weren't really worth a lot of money, and occasionally free cars would come up on the forum. And this one didn't live too far away from me, and the owner had passed away. His son was now kind of custodian, and it had been in a garage abandoned for about 15 years. Because the brake master cylinder, I think, had failed. The son then wanted the garage back for his own car to go into, at Cosworth, and yeah, he wanted someone who was going to take the car on and try and restore it and save it rather than break it apart. So I did an awful lot of work to it, all new brakes into it. We did all new sills, inner wings, a whole bunch of work. In fact, it came up here for its first MOT all those years ago. But I used it for a while, but it never really ran properly. The main thing was the timing. It turned out that the timing gear was very badly worn. Every time I turned the car off, the timing would slip, so I was driving with a spanner to make the thing, so I could retime it every time I climbed out of the car. In the end, I got fed up with that, and then I took the engine out, planning to rebuild it, decided the engine was just tired, which is when we got into the whole 4.6 litre conversion. So I bought a P38 Range Rover engine for 300 quid off eBay, stripped that down, had that machined and just completely honed and polished, ground the crank, head skimmed, the whole works, and then rebuilt it using the sump from the P6, the head from the P6, not the head, sorry, the inlet manifolds from the P6 and the carbs, and the front end, which is on the mild 3.5 litre, which I believe is from an SD1, which is why we had the confusion as to whether things were correct or not in terms of what was fitted to the car. I fitted it during lockdown, and since then I've been trying to make it start, and it would not go. So after a lot of struggling at my house, with me on my own, Nitro Sylvia, James popped around and he did a bit of fiddling as well, and we got the thing cranking over quite happily, but it just wouldn't fire. We had no compression ever. Brought it over here. Graham took a look at it and quickly discovered that the camshaft was in at the wrong angle, so everything was opening and closing correctly as it should do, but not at the right time. So it was never getting compression, it was never going to start. Fortunately, because I'd cranked it over a fair bit on the ground before it went into the car, and it was still in sort of mini pieces, I knew nothing was colliding, so there's no actual damage being done to the pistons or valves. However, it wasn't going to start. Once that was done, they assumed it was going to start. They put a drill on the distributor, fired it up, or fired the distributor up on that, got oil pressure, the light went out on the dashboard, the pressure gauge went up, both new sensors and senders in the engine bay, so we knew that was all good as well. So that was all good. Then when they went to go and start it, there was no oil pressure. And you do not want to run a car with no oil pressure, because that will destroy everything in short order. And that's where things became confusing, because, well, the oil pump clearly was working properly because you could spin it on the drill. And we'd done this at home as well, so we knew the oil pump was actually spinning, pumping oil, building pressure oil into the tappets, the whole works, it was all fine. That's all good. The problem is, run it off the engine, 0 oil pressure. So Graham thought for a while that what the problem was that the wrong distributor was in there. Because it's a mismatch of engines, potentially the wrong length of shaft was in there. But he measured it up, measured from the top of the hole that the distributor goes down to where the door gear is. Everything is correct. There's about 5mm of overlap, and you can actually see the distributor drop down when it makes the correct interference connection, if you like. So it's all there. But in fact, there are 2 mysteries at this point. First of all, you can spin the drill as long as you want and everything appears fine. The moment you stop though, you get a bizarre blub 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 gurgling sound, which I'm hoping I recorded a minute ago, but I think the microphone was playing up on this GoPro and I think we may have not recorded the sound. But it sounds like it's got indigestion. It's like water bubbling through mud. So air is being mixed into the oil somehow and then bubbling up inside the sump, which is bizarre. Where's it coming from? Secondly, as soon as you run the engine, it'll run for about 5 seconds quite happily, but then the oil light will come on, the pressure gauge will drop, and you've lost oil pressure. And then, as if that's not enough, moments after that, you start hearing the clacking from the tappets because they collapse because they're hydraulic tappets. So you know there's no oil pressure, at which point you have to turn the engine off post haste, because you don't, again, want to be running the engine with no oil pressure. So that's where we are now. So let's see the thing run and see if we can actually hear the car alive today. Further proof the engine is engaging, the oil pump is engaging with the distributor. It's turning. The man with shorts needs to get to the driver's door. The nettles have become... Now hopefully it will start up, and because we've just primed it on the drill, it'll have oil pressure. Let's have a go. Almost, it's more than we had previously. Right, okay, bit of timing changed. Okay, right, here we go. I'm doing the choke manually because that's not connected right now. Nearly car, nearly car. Shuddering into life. Come on, baby, you can do it. It's alive! It's actually alive! It's running! The first time I've hit it's running! Oh, turns down healthy now. That's oil pressure gone.
The light went out.
Yep.
And it came back on again.
Oh, okay, that's a new one then. So
that's exactly what it's been doing.
Oh, okay, right. So
it goes out and then comes back on.
But I didn't hear the gurgling at the end of that though.
No, that's what I'm saying. It only does it.
Only gurgles after you've done it on the drill. We've got oil pressure off the drill. We don't get oil pressure. So oil pressure, light has come on. Oil pressure on the gauge?
No.
None.
The light's on.
So we're going to turn off then, because no oil pressure is a bad thing. So this is a mystery. The car gets oil pressure when you're spinning it by hand. Doesn't get oil pressure of its own apparently functioning distributor. Very, very confusing, and you've not seen anything like it before.
No.
So, bit of a problem here then.
I really, yeah, I'm a bit mystified, and as to why that, because you can sit there with the drill and spin it as long as you like, and it's got oil pressure all the time.
Yeah, but as soon as
you put the distributor in, you start the engine, the light goes out, and then it comes back on again and doesn't go back off.
And you lose all pressure.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you said you
if you leave it running, then the tappets collapse, and then you start hearing rattly.
So it's not just the gauge and the sensor wrong, it's definitely the thing. That's just bizarre. So why would it work one way and not the other? Because it suggests everything in the system is functioning, and with every other part of other systems, like connecting the oil pump and the distributor, that's functioning as well.
Yeah, I mean you've got a light there which goes out, and then comes back on, which is a pressure switch, and you've got a gauge there, and they're two separate senders, and neither of them are showing any pressure.
They're both new sensors as well, so they should be working.
Yeah.
But in the fact you say, no, you can hear the tappets, then you know it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to keep running it with no oil pressure,
No, of
because
course
you'll end up wrecking the bearings.
Yeah, which is the last thing I want to do on a brand new engine. So any Rover V8 specialists out there who've come across this before? Because you've built a lot of these things over the years.
I've done a few,
Yeah.
I've never come across this.
Very, very odd. The only thing I can think of is something to do with the fact it's a Range Rover block and a P6 top and bottom end, and something in between isn't happy.
Yeah, whether there's, well, I don't know, some sort of, it's pulling air from somewhere, but why it would do it with the distributor and not, not with the cordless drill.
That gurgling at the end of the cordless drill does sound like there's air been introduced into the system.
It's pulling air in somewhere.
But from where? And it's not losing oil, so it's air's coming in and bubbling out again, it's not oil coming out the bottom. Oh,
and there's obviously adequate oil there because it does pump up.
Yeah. Oh, this is very confusing indeed. Car. So yeah. So the only thing next would be to take the engine out and take it all apart again.
You strip the sump off it and have a look and just see what's going on. It's just, you know, try and find, see if there's an air leak in something somewhere.
Yeah, but that's an engine out job, isn't it? So it's another expensive pain of a job.
Yeah. Which
is going to run into quite a few £100.
Well, it's hours, isn't it?
Yeah, hours and hours. So yeah, so what do we do with this thing? Just absolutely bizarre. So prime it on the drill, works perfectly. Just prime it as long as you possibly want, the pressure stays good, the light stays out, no problem whatsoever. Stop drilling it and you get the weird blub 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 sound, which is just bizarre. It's like someone's got bad indigestion. I'm hoping it recorded on this a minute ago because I'm not sure the microphone was working properly. Then you put the distributor back in there, fire it up, it runs for about 5 seconds, fine. Then you've got the oil pressure light come on, the gauge drops, and you lose oil pressure. So, has anyone come across that before? What could be the reason for this? Because I've never come across it, Graham's never come across it, and he's built a lot of engines. Yeah, what might be the reason? Why is there air coming from somewhere to make the blub blub sounds? And why are we not getting oil pressure off this thing when it all fits together properly? So there we are. This is frankly a mystery. I've never come across a situation quite like this, and I don't know what could possibly be causing it. But I'm not the expert. Graham, though, is an expert, and he's an engine builder, and this is really quite an amazing place where they build incredible cars for the likes of Goodwood. So they've built a lot of engines, and they've faced most mysteries, and they've never come across anything like it either. So really, there must be something inside the engine that isn't quite right, clearly. So does anyone have any ideas? Is anyone a Rover builder, a Rover V8 expert who's come across this situation before? The bubbling oil when you stop turning the oil pump, or perhaps the fact that you can turn the oil pump by hand and build pressure, connect the distributor in and the dog drive and everything, which are meshing correctly, and it doesn't get oil pressure off that way. Does anyone know what's causing that? Because it's frankly baffling, and I'd really love to drive this car actually, rather than having it sitting in the overflow yard here at CCK where they've just run out of ideas, as have I. If you do have any suggestions, then do drop me a line, because and they in fact as well, they'd like it gone, they'd like to be paid. We'd all be fascinated to know what the problem was, because the next thing to do, if we can't do that, is to take the engine out and strip the bottom end, take the sump off, and see what we can see. And that's either going to be massively expensive if I let them do it, because obviously their hourly rate is quite high and it's several hours taking the engine in and out, or I traded the car home, which is obviously going to cost me, you know, another couple of £100 there and back, and take the engine out myself and then bring the engine back for them to look at just on its own and see if they can figure it out and diagnose it on the floor here, and then bring the engine home again and refit the engine myself, which would save a lot of money, although I'd obviously have to be paying for the transporting of the car home again. Either way, it's a mystery. If someone has an easy fix that we can figure out in the meantime that would save us that bother, that would be amazing. Anyway, thank you for watching. I do appreciate your time for joining me on this adventure. Yeah, and not the conclusion I was hoping for, because I really wanted to see this thing running and be in a position where I could say, great, let's load this thing onto a truck and bring it home and I can put it all back together again at home and we're done. This is not going to be the case today though. Oh, Rover. In fairness, this car has always hated me, so I shouldn't really be surprised. Never mind. Anyway, thank you for watching. Join me again next time, and yeah, maybe we'll see a working Rover at some point in the near future. Goodbye.